Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. I'm Alex Mahajer. It is Monday, December 14th, and today the Electoral College will be casting all 538 of their votes in states across the country. The COVID-19 vaccine is being distributed to its first recipients all across the country and in Georgia. Early voting has begun in their Senate runoff election, and Kelly Loeffler, incumbent appointed Senator Kelly Loeffler, is in some hot water this morning after posing for a photograph with a KKK leader and white nationalist. We're going to talk about all of this and more this morning on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report. I'm Alex Mahajer. If you're watching on the HAPS app, website, or platform, click the award button. Let us know you're watching it. Or if you're watching on Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, leave a comment and we'll bat around live on air together. Good morning already to Daniel Goff in Westminster. Thank you so much for joining the program this morning. And we love seeing you here every morning. Good morning to Noel. Noel, good morning. And Daniel says it's snowing over there in Westminster, so that's very good to hear. And thank you for subscribing to the program, Andrew Childers. Leave a comment during the broadcast. Let us know you're enjoying it. We have a lot of headlines to cover this morning, and boy, it's a day. We've got a lot of news with the Electoral College. First and foremost, today, December 14th, is the day 538 electors in all 50 states and the District of Columbia will cast their Electoral College votes for president today. Joe Biden, of course, will become the next president-elect, and that will be made official in terms of the electors today. Georgia voters are lined up in the rain this morning to cast ballots in the U.S. Senate runoff election, where early voting officially starts today. People have been already mailing in their ballots for a couple weeks, and early voting will start in person today. Election day is January 5th, and as we know, this is extremely important. It will decide the power balance of the United States Senate and whether or not Mitch McConnell will get to call the shots anymore. 11 months after the first known recorded cases of COVID-19 in the U.S., the first doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be administered today. 145 sites across all of the states will receive the vaccine today. 425 different sites will receive the vaccine tomorrow, and 66 sites will receive the vaccine on Wednesday, and that will conclude the shipment of the first Pfizer vaccine doses across the country. A Russian intelligence agency hacked into several U.S. government networks, according to U.S. intelligence officials, including those at the Treasury and Commerce departments. And there is a lot of concern that these hacks may have happened in other departments as well, and that there may be some widespread implications with regards to what access these Russian hackers now have to emails with the Russians, always with the emails. But this morning, it's December 14th, which means the Electoral College is voting, and what a day, because the early voting has begun in Georgia, as we heard, and Kelly Loeffler, who is one of the candidates in the race, is in a little bit of hot water. Now, Kelly Loeffler, of course, was appointed to this position in January after the retirement of Senator Isaacson in Georgia. She was appointed in January. Now she's running to make that permanent, to make it a fish. And she's in a lot of hot water because over the weekend she was photographed with a white nationalist and leader of a white nationalist group. His name is Chester Doles. And we're going to show you the picture first. So here's what is up. This went out on Twitter from Chester Doles, Kelly Loeffler and I, Save America, Stop Socialism, more of the socialism bent. Now, this photo was taken of them at a Friday campaign event in Dawsonville, Georgia. Her campaign, of course, is saying that they condemn everything that he stands for. But it's not the first time that Kelly Loeffler has been photographed or associated with white nationalists or racists. She's also decried Black Lives Matter. She's spoken out against Black Lives Matter, the movement and the political organization of Black Lives Matter. And she has now photographed with this guy. He's a longtime white supremacist who spent decades in the Ku Klux Klan and he's the founder of an organization called American Patriots USA, which is white nationalist. And let's learn a little bit more about him. I mean, this guy put together some information for you. This guy's white supremacist, runs the white supremacist American Patriots USA. He's a longtime white supremacist and former KKK leader who spent decades in the KKK and a group called the National Alliance, which is a neo-Nazi organization. He was actually sentenced to prison for the 1993 beating of a black man in Maryland, and again on weapons violations in Georgia. He's been associated with the Hammerskins, a racist skinhead gang with whom he marched in the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, which, you know, as we all remember, Charlottesville was a very dark day in the country. And, you know, that was a day where Trump got up in front of the American people and said, these are very fine people on both sides. And he has consistently done a very poor job of speaking out against white nationalism. And much like white nationalists, this is the new MO. They denounce white nationalism and say, I am not a white nationalist, I'm a patriot, or I'm a populist or whatever. But they spend their time dog whistling to other racists and white nationalists in their rhetoric. And Trump has done that. And Kelly Loeffler is now photographed multiple times with not just this Chester Doles character, but she's done interviews with Jack Posobiec, who is also denounces white nationalism, but has certainly been associated with the alt-right and the far right. And she's been endorsed by Marjorie Greene, who's now a congresswoman who's a QAnon believer. These are people that believe that a satanic cabal of Democrats is seeking to destroy the world, and that only Donald Trump can save them. And she's associated with and sought out the endorsement of Marjorie Greene. So I think it's really important that while she is denouncing these figures in her public-facing statements, she's clearly not seeking to distance herself from them when it comes to face-to-face time with them. She says she had no idea who he is, but he's a pretty prominent figure. He's pretty prominent in this movement. And here is some video of Chester Doles in an October 2019 interview talking about Trump and his relationship to white nationalism. Here's Chester Doles.
Well, of course, a lot of my friends and associates aren't big supporters of Trump for his foreign affairs,
right,
handling certain things, and I agree with them, and I understand exactly where they're coming from. And I have to remind them that I haven't went crazy, that I've not lost my mind. But what Trump has done is he put a sense of tribal thinking into white America, 62 million people. And I never thought we could even get enough people to stand together to elect a governor, much less to act. But after 8 years of Obama, you have to recognize that Trump put that sense of tribal thinking into our people again, and America first. And that counts, because it wasn't happening. I didn't think we'd ever see it again. I didn't think I'd be proud to even fly an American flag again, but I've got one out front now. And so that America first, and getting Dr. Pierce used to talk about tribal thinking. Every race and culture has a sense of tribal thinking, except for people of European descent. And it's crazy. And he managed to rally. And of course, the people that voted for him in 2016 were kind of looking over the shoulder to make sure nobody seen who they were voting for when they went in the voting booth. But now everybody's got signs in their yard. It's a different ballgame.
So that's American Patriots founder Chester Doles talking about the tribalism of white nationalism and how Trump really motivated this movement. And Kelly Loeffler, now photographed with multiple white nationalist QAnon conspiracists, radical right-wing figures. And this is the same Kelly Loeffler who stood up on the debate stage against Reverend Raphael Warnock, who's a respected reverend and a civil rights leader and a man of God and a man of worship, and called him consistently a radical liberal during their debate last week. Radical liberal over and over again. And that's very problematic. And I have a little bit of that supercut. This seems to be what Kelly Loeffler's MO is, to respond to anything that shines a light on her own problematic associations and affiliations. Here's Kelly Loeffler during her debate.
Chuck Schumer said, now we take Georgia, then we change America.
I'm fighting for every single Georgian to live the American dream. Chuck Schumer of socialism, the American dream. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, the American dream. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, Chuck Schumer's radical agenda. Defund the police, Marxism, socialism, and Marxism. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, I'm here working for Georgia. Defund the police. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, Chuck Schumer. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi of the American dream. I started filling out a time card when I was 11 of the American dream. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, the socialist of the American dream. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock, supporting the American dream. Socialism. Radical liberal Raphael Warnock of the American dream. Socialism. Defunding the police.
It goes on and on and on. She called him a radical liberal multiple times, so many times during that debate that people on Twitter were calling her a robot. And, you know, Senator Loeffler, what's really radical is white nationalism. What's really radical is Nazism. What's really radical are people who support crazy, deranged conspiracy theory ideologies that there are satanic cabals running the country, and your concern is calling your opponent a radical liberal when he's a person, as Daniel Goff is pointing out in the comments. Thank you, Daniel. Reverend Warnock helps his community, is a person who helps his community, and is from Georgia. And we got some more comments. Noel is saying, wow, and yes, wow, indeed. And so soon to be gone, Donald and his grand wizard, says Daniel Goff. Indeed, you know, the Electoral College votes today. And this Senate race in Georgia is now where the eye of the entire nation is on these Senate races in Georgia. And even Barack Obama, former President Obama, has hit Georgia, and he's doing some campaigning out there in Georgia. Let's hear a little bit from former President Obama, who was in Georgia campaigning for the two Democratic candidates there, Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. And here is Obama's speech this past weekend.
You have two extraordinary candidates in John and the Reverend who deserve your vote. And let's face it, you've also got two senators who badly need to be replaced. Look, I served in the Senate. I remember when we used to get briefings in the Senate for threats, including the kinds of briefings that your two current senators got about COVID-19. They got briefed. You know, you go into this room and it's all top secret, and you got to kind of close everything off, and you know you can't take anything out of the briefing room because this is part of your responsibility as a public servant. And the point of these briefings is so that you can take quick action to protect the American people before it's too late. That's why the Senate gets these special briefings, to serve the interests of the people who have sent you to Washington, to serve their interests before your own. When I heard that your two senators here in Georgia, and understand what I'm about to say now is not a partisan statement. I'd be just as hard if I heard a Democrat was doing this. Your two senators publicly were telling you that the virus would be no big deal. But behind closed doors, they were making a bunch of moves in the stock market to try to make sure their portfolios were protected instead of making sure you were protected. Man, that's shady. That ain't right. They downplayed the pandemic in public, and in private, they're trying to see if they can profit from it, both of them. Not just one of them, both of them. They're like Batman and Robin gone bad. It's like the dynamic duo of doing wrong. I don't know what they were thinking, but Georgia, I promise you, Georgia was definitely not on their mind.
That's former President Barack Obama in Georgia, referencing the 2020 congressional insider trading scandal, where Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, the two Republican senators who are up in this runoff election, are heavily entrenched in this. And so we got a comment here from a viewer, and very on point. In the meantime, Kelly Loeffler invested in body bags for dead people after she got a briefing about the COVID-19 pandemic being bad. Now, here is what President Obama is referring to. On January 24th, 2020 of this year, the Senate Committees on Health and Foreign Relations held a closed meeting with only senators present to brief them about the COVID-19 outbreak and how it would affect the United States. And following this meeting, Senator Loeffler and her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, who is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, and I'll note, Kelly Loeffler is the richest member of Congress. She's worth at least $500 million. Some people place her net worth at $1 billion. She made 27 transactions to sell stocks between $1.2 and $3.1 million, and 2 transactions to buy stock in Citrix Systems, which saw an increase following the stock market crash. And Senator Perdue made a series of 112 transactions with stocks sold for around $825,000 and bought stocks worth $1.8 million. He started buying around $185,000 in stocks in DuPont, which is a company that makes personal protective equipment, on the same day as the Senate briefing, up until March 2nd. And then, of course, the market crashed shortly thereafter. So that is what President Obama is referring to. And now Kelly Loeffler being photographed with white nationalists, and then publicly saying, I denounce everything these people stand for. But we've got her photographed with so many people, interviews with so many people tied to white nationalism, tied to racism, tied to QAnon. We got a comment here saying blatant corruption. Absolutely. Another comment, it's infuriating how it's not illegal that senators can profit off of their stock activities with that information, and it should be. And John Ossoff, who is the Democratic candidate, has said that he will make it his work as a senator, if elected, to make sure that that happens. That exactly what you're saying, that there needs to be a new law immediately to prevent this again. And I think that is one of the benefits of a John Ossoff, Reverend Warnock candidacy, is that they'd like to end this practice immediately. So the early voting in Georgia has begun today. Early voting has begun ahead of this January 5th runoff election to determine the outcome of the United States Senate and see if Democrats can take power away from Mitch McConnell and start to implement an agenda for Joe Biden. So this is very important. On the same day that electors are voting in the Electoral College, that will happen today, and President-elect Joe Biden is scheduled to give a speech following the electors casting their votes later on today. So this has been the AM Report for Haps News, the network of Now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider subscribing or becoming a sponsor of the program, or buying me a cup of coffee if you like. You can do that at haps.tv/@Alex. Very loyal viewer Daniel Goff is chiming in to let you guys know that when you log on daily onto Haps, you can get free coins and award broadcasters like myself with those coins, and let us know you're appreciating the program. Or just join every morning, 7:30, wherever you watch the stream. Thanks so much for joining this morning. We will be back tomorrow with all of your latest. And this has been Alex Mahajer, AM Report. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.